This is an article that just came out on valuewalk.com. Opioid epidemic costing US, get this, $100 billion a year, 3 times more lives than Vietnam War. According to the Washington Post, the opioid epidemic has killed an estimate 180,000 people between 2000 and 2015 from overdose, more than 3 times the number of Americans who died during the Vietnam War, as well as the number of registered deaths from prescription medication. Thousands more have died from overdoses of heroin and fentanyl. The situation is becoming so bad that lawmakers are filing civil cases against manufacturers, distributors, and drugstore chains that supply opioids in the $13 billion a year industry. 24 states, cities, and counties have filed suits in the past year. And according to Goldman Sachs, aside from the health and humanitarian crisis, the U.S. opioid epidemic has caused addiction to these drugs is weighing on the economy's growth and job market. Of course it is. Of course it is. How could it not be? Okay. According to the new research report from the bank titled The Opioid Epidemic and the U.S. Economy, Goldman's Economics Analysis, note that the opioid epidemic has been intertwined with the story of declining prime age participation, especially for men. The report notes that while the increase in the numbers of prime age people, especially men, who are not in the labor market is well known, no visible links have been drawn between the explosion in opioid overdose deaths and a declining labor force participation rate. Nonetheless, research shows that nearly half of prime age men who are not in the workforce take pain medication daily, and 2/3 of whom take prescription pain medications. The report goes on to highlight data on substance abuse treatment episodes, reinforces the narrative with admissions of individuals not in the labor force, 58% describe themselves as being out of the labor force for other reasons, meaning they are not students, disabled, retired, inmates, or homemakers. And 47% of these admissions were for opioids, well above the average rate. According to one survey at the beginning of this year, 1.8 million workers were out of the labor force for other reasons, and roughly 881,000 of these workers said they had been taking an opioid the day before the survey. Wow, that's a lot of people. All right, let me just take a look. Full-time, unemployed, other. Look at the other category. It even outweighs the number of people that were unemployed in 2015. So really, the junkies dominate everything in this country. This data has been backed up by a survey from the Federal Reserve, which found in its survey of businesses in May that employers were having a rough time filling low-skilled positions, while a lack of skills among applicants was the most cited reason for being unable to fill a position. The second most popular reason was that applicants could not pass a drug test. There you go, just what I have been saying. The economic consequences of the opioid epidemic stretch far beyond the labor market. Goldman points to recent studies by Birnbaum which estimate the total of economic costs of opioid addiction at 78.5 billion in 2013 alone. Unfortunately, the crisis has grown significantly since then, making 100 billion a conservative estimate of the costs, more than the federal education costs. You know what? These people are just a scourge of the earth and a drain on society. What contributions are they really making at this point? They're just really, they're a drain. You can't even say, okay, they can turn this around and go out and be productive. No, they can't. And they're not turning it around. But this is the first time I have seen this estimate of 180,000 people between 2000 and 2015. Every time I see it, it's always like around 52,000. But if this number is true, that is pretty damn significant. That's a lot of people that died. Wow. Boy, no end in sight, everybody, as we already know. Please leave your comment and subscribe. And if you can donate to my channel, please do. Peace, family.